Hello and welcome to WTV. I'm Noah Woodmeyer.
And I'm Carly Slonwhite. We worked hard all weekend to bring you our best stories.
We took a ride on the $1 Million Bus.
And we spoke to some local activists about how they're challenging power politics and culture.
All of that is coming up, but first, let's check in with Lottie George at the news desk.
Lottie?
Thanks, Carly. Almost 200 people showed up for a chance to meet with the new NTP party leader of downtown Halifax. Jagmeet Singh weighed in on several issues, including those that affect students.
The same way we have a health accord that required the federal government to negotiate with provinces, I would envision something similar, a post-secondary education accord.
Singh also spoke about his promise to end unpaid internships for students employed by federal agencies.
Well, there's definitely going to be resistance, but we're not going to back down. If you are working in this country in terms of an internship position, it should be paid.
The NDP lost all their seats in Atlantic Canada in the 2015 election. Singh says he wants to turn that around in the next election. For years, Nova Scotia Webcams has provided us with visuals from all over the province. WTV's Matt Brand tells us that they're now expanding their menu.
That's right. I'm here at King of Donair on Quinpool Road, where they've teamed up with Nova Scotia Webcams, and they've developed a media idea to make your head spin. Over the past 10 years, technology has evolved at an incredible rate. iPhones, self-driving cars, artificial intelligence. Now, this, the Donair Cam. There it goes. Seasoned lamb formed into a cone, spinning round and round. The Donair Cam is streaming live from here. The marriage of meat and multimedia is thanks to a partnership between King of Donair and Nova Scotia Webcams. But how have people been responding to this online meat retreat?
So far it's good. We've reached people in multiple continents and in a ton of cities all across the country, and we're getting some interesting comments.
For some of those interesting comments, look no further than Twitter. One user says, "I'm watching a live Donair Cam. Don't ask me how my life is going. WTF, it's even got a tip jar." Some people are even considering trading in their cable-provided fireplace for the Donair Cam. But for some, watching a large slab of meat spin endlessly in circles just isn't for them.
Life is short and valuable, so gotta use it well.
I'm confused as to why.
Yeah, who would want to watch that?
I don't know, I'm just too busy living life, experiencing things.
The question that remains is, what's next for the Donair Cam?
I think the question was if we can deliver the smell as well.
And will you be able to?
Probably not. Not immediately. We're working on it.
They say they've got some saucy plans in the future for the Donair Cam. Ralph Picard with Nova Scotia Webcam says the Donair Cam will stay up as long as people are hungry for more. Back to you, Lottie.
Thanks, Matt. On Friday, a round of community meetings about police street checks wrapped up. The talks were led by University of Toronto professor Scott Wortley and the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission. Wortley's job is to analyze the street check data. The numbers show black people are 3 times more likely to be stopped by police than white people. Wortley says he understands the community may not trust an outsider investigating this issue.
Although I'm an outsider to Nova Scotia, an outsider to Nova Scotia's black community, I'm also an outsider to the police.
Wortley expects to be back in Halifax in the new year. At that time, he plans to deal more directly with youth by holding focus groups with high school and university students.
What we want to do next is focus more on some of the youth issues. Policing, particularly street policing, not only it's not only been argued that it often focuses on minorities or people who live in poor communities, but it's also a focus on young people.
A final report on street checks is expected in the fall of 2018. After recent Twitter debates by Halifax City councillors, another councillor says the time is right to update the Code of Conduct for elected officials.
Really, I've been thinking about this since we first got elected, And now with recent issues with some councillors and having online Twitter debates, I felt it was the right time to bring it forward.
Tony Mancini is requesting a staff report to look at hiring a new integrity commissioner who would ensure councillors follow the code of conduct. This comes after a heated Twitter exchange between councillors Sean Cleary and Matt Whitman. Whitman used an outdated word to refer to African Nova Scotians that many people consider offensive.
Like any team or any family, we'll debate or disagree. Heck, sometimes we don't even like one another. That's fine, that's real world. But we have to do it respectfully, and that's my intent of the Code of Conduct review.
Mancini says right now elected officials only review the code once every 4 years. He hopes with this motion it would be reviewed every year. 1 in 4 Nova Scotians are affected by arthritis. It's the highest rate in Canada. To help support arthritis research, volunteers got together to climb a virtual Everest on Citadel Hill. And for the first time, this team of young girls and their coach took part to promote athleticism and help their community.
Their impact? Well, I think that they're really they're examples to both adults and other girls and all youth, actually, that you can do anything if you're willing to train and work hard. And these girls work really hard.
The event sees teams slogging up and down Citadel Hill for hours, all in the name of arthritis research. One run at a time, these confident girls are making a difference. And that's the news. Back to you, Noah and Carly.
Thanks, Lottie.
It's time now for a quick break.
Make sure you warm up your pipes because it's time for the big sing.
That and other stories coming up next. Another clear, crisp day.
Make sure you bundle up before going outside.
Welcome back.
A real vehicle for change journeyed to the East Coast, all the way from Kelowna, BC. They're selling advertising space on their bus for donations.
The plan is to raise $1 million to give back to communities across the country who are making a difference.
WTV's Hannah Butler has a story.
The $1 Million Bus has already traveled over 9,000 kilometers across Canada from Kelowna, BC. Ryan Lancaster, Melissa Spraga, and Jamie Coddington made the decision that no matter what, they would reach their goal of $1 million and then give it back to Canadian community groups trying to make a difference.
Came naturally from a progression of me wanting to do something more purposeful with my life. And so the idea of reducing my life down to something as simple as living in a school bus and then using that as a tool to help jumpstart these projects and these people's dreams that are trying to make a difference across Canada just really resonated with me.
The Lancaster had no extra money to buy a bus, so he turned to social media for help. He had one button to trade, but after 5 trades, Lancaster had the bus he needed. Soon after, the $1 million bus headed across the country. They stopped in as many towns as possible, trying to get a sense of local projects.
We've connected with Hope Blooms, which is a really awesome local story here. There's some great kids that have basically banded together to teach themselves about local agriculture, about food security, and they've actually created a sustainable social enterprise by taking the food that they grow in their garden and then turn it into salad dressings, which they then sell.
Not only have Canadians been creative and inspiring on his journey, they have also been supportive. Here in Nova Scotia, Roxanne Robinson watched their progress from across the country. She insisted they stay with her before continuing the journey to Newfoundland.
I was happy to introduce my family to the $1 Million Bus and to witness their passion and their drive, and they've been traveling a long time and sleeping on a bus, so to offer them a warm shower and a bed and cook them a few meals, it was just a great experience for my whole family.
Robinson hopes that her own 2 sons are inspired by the idea of chasing a dream.
My boys got inspired by what they're doing, and to realize that, not everything is as you plan it.
They will finalize dates and fundraising events in the new year. Then they'll be traveling across Canada again in the spring.
And we've hopefully donated an entire $1 million to projects across Canada and help empower the people that are trying to make a change from a bottom-up perspective.
That's what I call a $1 million idea.
Absolutely. Now time for some tunes. WTV's Connor Small brings us the music.
The Big Sing is a bi-weekly event that brings people together in song. For some, it was their first time singing outside of their shower.
I've always actually wanted to join a choir, but didn't want to do the church route.
While others had a little more experience. On Monday, they all came together to practice and then perform a cover of KT Tunstall's Suddenly I See. The crowd had a diverse age range, and the atmosphere was one of encouragement and fun, free from judgment.
Different people, like-minded, just want to sing together and have a good time.
The Big Sing has been going strong as a bi-weekly event for almost a year. Seth Levinson and Jack Bennett were both inspired by Choir in Toronto and endeavored to establish the Big Sing as a similar group here in Halifax.
Mondays can be hard, and to come here on a Monday and just celebrate being together with everyone in a musical way where you don't have to have any experience or any prior knowledge of music. You just get to show up and sing with a bunch of strangers, or maybe you've brought your friends or family, is pretty exciting, and it's just it's a nice escape from anything else that might be going on in your life.
So if you like to sing but don't have anyone to sing with, you should come to the next Big Sing on November 27th. Connor Small, WTV News, Dartmouth.
That looks like a lot of fun. Do you like pizza?
Who doesn't?
What about saving money?
Of course.
Perfect. For this week's On a Dime, Jack is going to show us how to eat the food you love while saving a buck. Take it away, Jack.
Thanks, you two. This week on a dime, we're going to save money on pizza. Not this pizza. We called 3 chain pizza places, and the average cost of a Works pizza is $19.79 taxes in. We can do better. I've already got my dough made up here. This is enough for 2 pizzas, but we're only going to make 1. My dough is 2 1/4 cups of flour, 2 3/4 teaspoons of baking powder, a tablespoon of salt, a tablespoon of oil, and about a cup of water. Together, these cost less than $1. You can also buy a package of 2 pre-made crusts for $2.99. The next important ingredient is the sauce. You can buy it at the store for less than $2 or make your own. You just spread it evenly here. I like to go all the way out to the edge, but you can leave as much crust as you like. Next comes the meat. If you're a vegetarian, you can skip this step. The pepperoni and salami are staples of the pizza. At the deli counter, I got 100 grams of pepperoni for $1.99 and 100 grams of salami for $1.79. Next, you want to throw in some veggies. To save money, just use leftovers. It's really about what you want, and that's what makes homemade so great. Finally comes the cheese. You usually get a large brick for less than $5, and you're only going to end up using half anyway. The last step is the easiest. Preheat your oven to as hot as it will go and toss this in for 15 to 20 minutes or until golden brown. It'll look something like this. Don't be afraid to add a bit of char here and there. It adds character. About $3 for crust, $1.50 for sauce, less than $4 for meat, and about $2.50 for cheese. Altogether, that's less than $11 for 2 medium pizzas and $19.79 for 1 takeout pizza. And that's how you make a pizza on a dime. Back to you, Carly and Noah.
Thanks, Jack. Let's make me hungry.
It's time now for another quick break.
When we come back, more help for victims of sexual assault.
And a website that's creating a diverse narrative in the city. Stay tuned. What a lovely shot of the harbor.
We're lucky to be so close to such a nice view. Welcome back. The province of Nova Scotia has created a new program offering free legal advice to sexual assault survivors.
That's right, Noah. I had the chance to take a further look into the initiative.
Megan Hubley was assaulted in Halifax almost 10 years ago. At the time, she chose not to press charges.
The immediate time after I was raped, it's like there was so much going on mentally, physically, emotionally, that the first step is survival.
The free legal advice program was announced by the Department of Justice last week in Bridgewater. The service is accessible through 211 and provides up to 4 hours of access to a private lawyer. Megan says she thinks the program could be valuable for some people, but she's worried survivors still may not be heard.
To call and re-traumatize yourself for nothing, like I just wonder if that's worth it. So until we see changes made, we probably aren't going to want to make a phone call.
The Avalon Sexual Assault Center in Halifax had a hand in developing the federally funded program.
2 of our staff were involved with the development, and as well as we provided training to the lawyers who will be providing the free independent legal advice.
Stevens says she hopes the government will continue to invest in sexual assault services and to address sexual violence in the province.
It's a small start. I mean, most people who are going through the legal process or looking at what their options are after sexual assault, sometimes the situation that they are experiencing is complex and they may need multiple kinds of supports and advocacy.
Megan Hubley says while this is a start, she'd like to see a systemic change.
It shouldn't be up to people to call and call and call to make the system better. They're not calling because it's already against us. It's set against the person who was raped, not the person who did the raping.
Thanks so much for that story, Carly.
No problem. For the last 2 years, radio, television, and journalism students here at NSCC have been following the issue of land title in African Nova Scotian communities. Last month, the province announced $2.7 million to help solve historic injustice.
We caught up with community activist and lawyer Angela Simmons to hear her thoughts about the new money.
My initial thoughts were great. Like, it was really rewarding to know that after 3 years of advocating that, you know, government and people of influential positions in government were listening. We talked about the funds, which is great, but it's not going to make any changes if we actually don't change the legislation. I hope that that is the next step. Some of the questions that I would have, and in some conversations with community members, is what's the rollout of the funds going to look like? Are we going to empower the community outreach workers to actually make some substantive decisions? What kind of background and job descriptions will those community outreach workers have? Another question I have is the surveyors. There was only one with 2 technicians. What will that look like in 5 communities? And if, you know, one survey is not able to survey 7 properties, how do we imagine that to happen in a community of over 1,000 people? What are some of the barriers going to be with having money? Who gets the priority of the land first? How does the application look? Who's going to be reviewing the application? Well, I think that's the real big concern I have, is that we have funds and money, but no real plan. People are just wondering, when's it going to start? It won't resolve the land title issue. Yeah, no, absolutely won't. We could have nothing. People could not have any money, but this is a start. What I really, really would like to see, which didn't come out, is that there's going to be some sort of commission put in place to help resolve the disputes. It is not community's problem that need to fix this, that essentially government made promises and they didn't keep their promises. I think it's whoever, I guess, the community workers recognize would be first, but I think maybe seniors, you know, people who are actually, the housing grants for me, I think if anyone were to ask me, I would say any home that's waiting for a housing grant that and is being refused, that don't have land title, need to be in the queue of priority. It's now approaching winter, and you have homes that windows are cold air's going in them. You have insulation coming out of the homes, and all people being denied seniors housing grant because they don't have title. That's a huge human rights problem. Essentially, you aren't able to get what they call the housing grants, like for seniors, but you have to be able to prove that you own your home. It's wrong. It's wrong that we live in a society right now that is so entrenched in such discriminatory policies and systemic racism that we can't get past being good citizens and doing the right thing. I think the recognition of other communities is great, but I think actually maybe 2 community workers per designated community would have been better. You're setting people up for failure by essentially giving work that you're not going to be able to complete. I think moving forward, I would really like to see the legislation be changed. That if we had a judicial commission with an executive director, lawyers on there, community workers on there, and then people actually from each of the communities that we're serving actually sit on board to help resolve the conflicts. I always say, you know, be happy that we're here, but be realistic, and this is going to take time. Like, because the announcement came out doesn't mean next month you're going to have your title. Doesn't mean we're going to understand the application process any better. What it does mean is that people are listening. And so at least now you have a voice, and keep using it. You know, I encourage people to still continue to have expectations that you deserve better, and it's wrong. And money shouldn't keep you quiet. If things are not right, then you keep speaking about it. You have the right people in place, and it could really be powerful, powerful change if we did it right.
We'll be continuing to follow this story and any new developments. Now, Noah, I know you looked at a website that's just been launched.
I did. It's designed to give everyone a voice.
You can, go through your entire degree and not know that there was slavery in Halifax.
Paris Hébert and Katie George Jim are Dalhousie students that have launched a new website called Culture Over Currency. They say they want a place for diverse voices to be heard.
While learning about the culture and history of Nova Scotia as well as the Maritimes through our own experiences but also through others, has kind of shown us that there is a missing part of the conversation, and we want to ensure that those voices are able to be heard.
George Jim says the website offers a space for people to share their stories, as well as a place for people from diverse backgrounds to comment on political and social dialogues.
I started Culture Over Currency mainly because we found that there was a big gap in what we were being taught in university.
George Jim is a part of the Dalhousie Student Union and took some time in a recent panel discussing her new site and urging people to share their stories.
So I think stopping and thinking about what Canada 150 means for me.
Amina Abouage is the Dalhousie Student Union president. She's excited about the new website.
Platforms like Culture Over Currency is very important to me because as a racialized woman, I don't often see people who look like myself narrating stories that affect me, that affect people who look like me, that affect my communities.
The team is currently reaching out to any new contributors.
Thanks for filling us in on that important new project, Noah.
No problem. Let's take a look at another Haligonian that's making a difference.
We spoke to artist promoter Kayla Borden in this edition of Better Halifax.
I feel like Nova Scotia should be on the map with all the different talent that we have here. It needs to be showcased a lot more than what we see. I'm involved in all of the art forms like dance, theater, music, fashion, food. Everything can be a form of art. So the Prismatic Arts Festival is basically a festival that showcases Indigenous and Aboriginal artists of different multi-art forms. And we bring that to an audience that haven't really got to see this type of stuff. I actually have a Facebook page called Paint a Picture Productions. So I put all the events, local businesses and stuff like that that's happening that not much people know about on that page for free, just so that more people are drawn to know what's going on in the city. A lot of people don't know that these events and festivals are happening, so I feel like it just brings everyone together. I meet up with already youth that are doing art. So I basically just tell them or bring them to spaces that get them to network and utilize their skills. I'm like an outsider coming into these communities because I actually grew up in Spryfield and I live in Dartmouth. So I'm always in Halifax working with these different kids. So for them to see me and look up to me as a role model, it feels really good. They're the future, so I feel like they're the next ones up. So to teach them now is a good place to start. Follow your dreams and just keep going for it. It's not gonna come in a day, but you just gotta keep at it. Practice makes perfect. My name is Kayla Borden, and I hope to continue connecting organizations and youth of multi-arts to make a better Halifax.
To keep up with different events in the city, head over to Kayla's Facebook page, Paint Ya a Picture Productions.
That's our show for the week. Thanks for watching. And if you want to keep up with us behind the scenes, like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at WTV Media.
And tune in next week to Eastlink at 7 p.m.
Well, we're going to get some donaires.
And Jack's making me a pizza.
See you next time.